Hi, I'm Michael Matthews. I'm the Improv GM, and today we're going to talk about how to get off the plot train both as a player and as a GM. One thing that I've found super common when I'm playing with players who haven't done a lot with me as of yet is occasionally I just tell them literally, listen, this thing's happening over here. You don't have to go there. If that's not what you're interested in, and you go to someplace else that doesn't seem where the plot is supposed to be, that's 100% fine. And I'll sometimes get these weird looks like they're looking for a trap. I think a lot of adversarial GMing, particularly where the whole thing is like, I get a total party kill, is a part of that, and it's frustrating if that's not what you're doing. Because I want to be surprised, and because if I know all the things that are going to happen, it really sort of feels like, why am I bothering to play? I'll write a book. I want to be surprised too. So the way my prep sort of goes for the things I need prep for, it's not encounter based. It is instead, here are the factions, here's what's going on in the world, and then here are the things that they would do if the players don't show up, and then this is the things they'll want out of the players, which is pretty much what I'd always done. But do check out Dogs in the Vineyard by Vincent Baker. The best GM advice I've ever seen. It basically put to words and gave me some extra ideas of things I was doing anyway, which is fantastic. So one of the things I want to talk about today is how do you give your players and yourself the permission to not get stuck in, not even necessarily a railroad, but even like it's a plot direction where it can go in places you're not expecting. And what I want you to do is we're going to talk about how to start that thing small. Now, some people really like a railroad, like knowing we go from here, we go to here, we go to here, and everything is set up because you can do these big set pieces. If that's your thing, cool, this isn't going to help you much. But if you want to get out of it, here's why I'm not fond of it besides what I already said. We've all played video games where there's like this massive main quest that basically everyone just kind of fucks off and ignores. I mean, Fallout at one point, I'm like, well, I should probably go and do something with the main quest. I played like 100 hours of Skyrim and did not touch the main quest except to get like a couple powers on occasion. And there's no urgency because the whole thing is, no matter what you do, people are waiting in their spots for that encounter to happen. It's like, Commander Shepard, you got to save the entire universe. But while you're at it, if you can go to this planet and look for a woman's son on the entire planet to give him this diary, that'd be great. Because, the enemy that you're going off to save the universe from, they're going to wait for you until you show up and the cutscene happens. It's supposed to happen. Computer games kind of have to be like that to a degree. The nature of it is very different than role-playing games, even though we call them role-playing games. You get locked in. And the thing is, with a tabletop role-playing game, there's no reason to do that. And it also means if you have all this stuff set up, if it's not what the players find interesting, they're going to get bored. They're not going to want to look into this thing, and then it'll just sort of kind of die off while they're uninterested in the direction you want to take them. So, couple things. It might work well for dungeons. There might be people that can tell you how to do that. I am not that guy. I did dungeons when I was young. I have zero interest in them today. Like, if we're going to play Gloomhaven or Descent or something, all about that. It'd be awesome. If we're sitting down to play a role-playing game, I want to deal more with like characters and NPCs and stuff. I want it more of a personal character thing as opposed to a tactical element. I like a little bit of that, but it's not my focus. So dungeons make that hard. Superhero games also are difficult to make this work in. It's not impossible, but you have to set it up right. The nature of most superhero games is the players are reacting to what a villain does. The traditional comics and such don't tend to have very proactive heroes, because if you have these people with all these massive powers proactively making changes in the world, then, well, you have to make those changes in the world. Superman, if he lived, could make this world a lot different very quickly. And those will have consequences, and that also means it's hard to do 30, 40, 50, 60 years where things keep changing. It would be awesome. Don't get me wrong, I'd love that. But the standard superhero thing is creating the illusion of advancement, but keeping that status quo pretty normal. I have run games where the players were like super, super powerful, and were one of about like 200 supers in the entire world, and that literally became how do you want to change the world? If you have these powers and they're not like your standard, like these are much more high level, what changes do you want to see happen in the world because of you? And those are games where combat doesn't come into it terribly often, and when it does, it threatens massive cities. So those two, this is going to be a little bit harder to make work with. But just about anything else, you can actually dip your toe a little bit into it. Even a fantasy game that has a lot of dungeons, there's ways to tip your toe. And what I want you to do is start small. You want to have something relatively contained so that you've got a playground. I mean, because they talk about sandboxes a lot, and it's sandboxes, from what I've seen, mostly tends to be, here's all this place, you can have these different encounters, and it's more kind of dealing with the things that you encounter and less about story. I'm talking about how to do it with story. So, take a small town. All sorts of things happen in small towns. Enclose it, have a couple different factions. So when the players show up, pretty soon, like they do in kind of anything like this, they get approached, or they know somebody, or they have a reason to get involved with things happening in this town. So what you want to do, to give them the freedom to do what they want, give them 3 factions. 3. Over here. It's okay to make one of them out and out bad guys. I mean, having someone that they can hit and let off steam without worrying about it can be good depending on your group. But my recommendation is, don't make the other two one, like make sure there's not a clear, this is who you're supposed to side with. Make sure that there's some drawbacks to it, so the players don't come in and go, okay, well, we got this group of people who are killing everybody in town, nice folk. We got this group of people who want to end up sacrificing the entire town to be a portal to bring in this demon. And we got this little girl who wants to be a princess. Ain't she purty? We're going to do things for her. Because at that point, like, the other ones just might as well be monsters that you take out. Because the players are, of course, going to go with the little girl and help her. Give them reasons to be ambivalent or to choose a side. Once they choose a side, perhaps they come into conflict with that other party, but it's not going to be the same as maybe taking out the really bad guys. You want to leave them in a position where they can go either way and still have reasons to feel like they've landed in a place they feel pretty good about. So with those ones, after they've done this, know what these factions would do if the players never showed up. Have it in your head. What are the moves they're going to make? This one will do this. This one will do this. Actually, if you do check out, there's an 8-minute story challenge that I have posted that is the Clashes Straight to Hell. That actually has an example that would work for this. This is for a apocalyptic wasteland, but it would also be super simple if you change some names to make it into something that they run into in like a fantasy or even a more modern game. What are they going to do? If the players never show up, you know what's going to happen. You know how they're going to move against each other, what the end result is going to be. So then, when the players actually show up, what are they going to do? How are they going to view them, first of all? Because they don't come in with a little like sign that says PC on their chest. They may or may not notice them at first. How are they going to take notice? Once they do take notice, are they going to want to recruit them? Are they going to think they're maybe part of the problem? Are they going to want to steal from them or do whatever? So figure out, here's what they're going to want, and once things get escalated, how are they going to want to try to move the players into a position to help them? Because the players should kind of become that main chess piece that makes everything happen. If you're just the squad that goes off and creates a diversion so the real thing can happen, the players are eventually going to be like, why aren't we doing the cool real thing? We're player characters. Like, if you have them on a side thing where they seem like they're doing the distraction, it kind of means, and we should all know this, it kind of means that side distraction is gonna be the real thing. And that's fine, because it gives them that surprise. They may think, oh, we'll be on the next thing, and then this other thing will happen. It's just the way kind of good fiction works, and also not to waste a ton of their time. So, when they start making their moves, the players find out about it, give them a choice on where to go to. If they go to we're going to talk to the evil faction, well, the other two factions are going to be making some moves on each other. Make the moves in a triangle so that the place they're going to will have a move made against it, the other one will make a move against them, and they've got moves being made maybe that the players might interrupt or might not, depending on what they're doing. so that when the players change things, you're then reacting essentially by popping into the head of this particular faction. Okay, now that we'll use the example from the thing. It's post-apocalyptic. You've got Aurora, who is the head of the Rebirth Syndicate, basically the strong arm of this post-apocalyptic town. The players show up and there's an explosion takes place. Immediately, these are new people that have shown up. There's going to be some suspicion. They might move after them, at which point that might actually short-circuit a fight between them and the cleanse, which are these religious zealots that this other group, the Shadows, are trying to cause tensions between. So they maybe don't make that move. Maybe they start to try to come together and try to find some sort of a common ground, which is the other one then it's like, oh, screw this. We need to actually do something because they think the players did it, or we can't get the players' help. This is not going to go the way we want it. So the players can kind of become that linchpin, and you are reacting to what the players want to do. And the cool thing is you're reacting to what they want to do, not what you have sat down and figured this is the thing that's going to happen. If they go to see the religious zealots first, while that happens, the explosion might happen as planned, and then suddenly when they come here, you've got these new people who have not been seen before or not particularly well known, have now been part of this tactic that is way outside of what they've done before. Now, it's your fault. And they might take this opportunity to try to take the power that they've wanted, the Zealots would, or maybe, depending on how things have gone, throw you under the bus. In which case, the Shadows are going to have to make a change, or you talk to the Shadows first, and the Shadows in here are mostly like between 19 and 12, fairly young workers. We talk to them first. Maybe it's talking them out of it. Well, at this point, where you have small skirmishes happening between the other two, as they are trying to gain some powers by capturing someone or doing whatever. So at this point, as things are cut in motion, no matter where the players go, you have something that'll happen that you have to make adjustments for. So you get to enjoy that aspect of creation on the fly. The perfect GIF I can think of for what a GM's job should be during a game is Wallace and Gromit when the dog, which I don't remember which one that is on the train, and he, like, the little toy train, and he is just laying tracks down right in front of them. That, for me, is where I want to live as a GM, because that's a whole lot more fun than setting up the track and then just having the train go around, because there's people who enjoy that hobby, and I don't understand them. It's like a screensaver you spend a lot of time putting together. So as they're going through, a couple things that help, and some of this stuff, like Apocalypse World games, tend to help do really well, like lists of names. Have a bunch. I've got a couple things I use on my iPad. There's like names for RPG, and there's one called like Personalize that I can bring up a ton of information and a ton of names super quick in a whole bunch of different nationalities. And like the Personalize one, you can actually buy a thing where you can even get fantasy races and all this kind of stuff. I don't run a ton of fantasy, so I'm usually like skipping between different nationalities or just going, give me a person on Earth, and it will choose from any of them and give me a name. Give places for things. If you're going to Humboldt Park, which something in my head makes me think that's a real thing, but I don't know, and I just pulled it out of the air. I almost said MacArthur Park. That's a song. If it's Humboldt Park is different than meeting at a park. A park is something you just thought of off the top of your head, and it's probably not going to matter, which, by the way, doesn't mean it doesn't have to matter. Humboldt Park may be something you had plans for. And maybe something's going to happen there because it doesn't feel throwaway. Give people names. Give places names. And I don't always do this. I'll sometimes a little bit mentally fatigued and won't do that the way I want to. But when you do that, suddenly it feels like not only a real place, but it feels like it's not just GM bullshitting and trying to give you something that won't matter. Because then when Dave, the guy that they meet, ends up mattering, it doesn't just, you're not going, oh yeah, that guy you talked to, the scout, his name's Dave. Let's make it him. Now, if you're good at it, my players tend to know I can do that if I'm getting lazy, but still make Dave super important because suddenly I'll just jump into him. We all kind of like Dave. I'll do a couple little things and then just spin him into a major character. If you don't feel comfortable with that, just ahead of time, do that. And I'll talk another time about sort of how to give those NPCs more life. So, while all this is going on, And even if they decide, like, they get everything done, and this is something you should probably be doing throughout, if they sort of solve this conflict and choose to leave, or maybe choose to try to fix things on the longer scale to do something, you leave it up to them. And it can be very important to specifically tell them, you can go off on your own way, and what's going to happen is going to happen, and it's fine. But if you're interested, you can do whatever. And then let them know, I don't care. Either way, there's going to be cool things that can happen. And if throughout the whole thing, when they go, well, should we talk to the shadows? I'm like, listen, if you want to talk to any of them, it's not going to make a difference as far as I'm not sitting here just desperately hoping you pick the specific thing that I have dangled in front of you, that you've gotten that one. The two of them aren't tin and one of them's gold. All of them can be gold. Giving them the permission and sometimes telling them more than once they can do that is a specific way to get them into it. If you give them something small, if you just want to kind of test out what do these players seem to find interesting, give them a small MacGuffin thing to take care of and have them meet people of different factions and then see, are they interested in these factions? Are there things that they as players kind of want to pursue? If they do, awesome. You have got possibly what could be like a campaign that's building up. If you happen to want to watch a whole bunch of stuff, the Unknown Armies game that I did was just going to be Scooby-Dooing across America, running into weirdness as they went and toured in a van, playing shows, and one guy was taping them. We brought another player on, we found a couple things that the players really found super interesting, like Damanhur, and we decided to go with it. And that ended up creating the thrust through to this really kind of cool ending where we didn't even realize it was going to be the epilogue, but some of the characters had grown enough that we all decided, hey, this campaign is done. And that wouldn't have happened if we started off going, here are the very specific things that are going to happen, which we kind of did in a way that was, we lost a player and it was kind of ugh. But by letting the players let me know what they found interesting, we got to create something that was super cool. You also, if you want to take a look at the lore sheets video I did, lore sheets from Legends of the Wulin are super good at this. I'll be doing we're doing a Legends of the Wulin game that's starting up next week. You'll actually see some of this if you do want to check it out. They are incredibly cool role-playing technology that should be in a whole lot of other games. So, give yourself the permission and give your players the permission to go where they want. Start small. Come up with some factions, kind of know what's going on, what they're going to do, and what they want the players for. If you've got that in your head, it's much easier to react to the players instead of trying to put a flow chart that you already put together in your mind where we go from this encounter to this encounter to this encounter to this encounter. So, hope you like it. If you do, go ahead, subscribe down there, share it. Have yourself a great evening.